I ordered meat in front of my vegan friend. I'm 28 years old and have a friend since college. Her name is Mia and she's 27. She moved to LA last year and became a vegan while I live in the Midwest. I'm supportive of her decision to be vegan, but it's overall not for me. So, a couple months back we were FaceTiming and I was eating an omelette. And she made a comment about, "How can you eat eggs? Don't you know how mistreated those animals are?" I am fortunate enough to own my own home, and as such I have backyard chickens. The eggs I ate literally came from the hens in my backyard. I brushed it off as a joke and said, "You do know I have my own chickens, right? What do you think? I'm some mobster ordering these hens to lay for me as a protection fee. If they don't meet the quota, I tie them up outside and let the coyotes sniff around to scare them into submission." Mia was less than amused and continued arguing with me. I continued to brush it off. So last week I went out to visit her in LA. We hadn't seen each other in over a year. We ended up going out to a restaurant the day I landed and I ordered a burger with a gluten-free bun. I'm celiac. Well, Mia started raving about how offensive it was to eat meat in front of her and what if she was allergic. I told her, "But you aren't allergic. Me eating this doesn't impact you." Mia left for the bathroom. She came back and everything seemed normal until the food arrived. I thought the burger looked weird and asked the server about it. Apparently Mia went and changed my order to a vegan patty while she went to the bathroom. And the kicker, the patty contained gluten. So she literally ordered something that would have made me super sick if I ingested it. I told the server this was a mistake, that I was celiac and could not eat the burger. Mia started going off, saying I was being unreasonable and not open to new things, and how dare I eat meat in front of her. I told her, "You're the one being selfish, not respecting my choice, not to mention putting my health at risk. What the hell is the matter with you?" She refused to relent, so I left the restaurant. Mia was blowing up my phone to pay my part of the tab. I used the spare key she gave me, grabbed my suitcase, left the key with her roommate, and hightailed it to a hotel. Now this is the part where I might be an asshole. I went to a restaurant near my hotel, ordered a steak and posted it on my socials. Well, of course Mia saw it and continued to spam me on every platform imaginable. And I ended up blocking her. Some of my friends say that taunting her with the steak was too far. Others agree that Mia was out of line changing my order. Let's listen to some comments from the community and answers from the author before I read the update.
Well, Mia started raving about how offensive it was to eat meat in front of her, and what if she was allergic? Then what's the point of going to a restaurant when everyone around her is eating meat?
You bring up a good point. And I don't know, maybe so there was something to fight about, or to try and persuade those around her into being like her. I didn't really think that deep on it when she picked the restaurant.
And why isn't it a problem when she eats gluten in front of you? I mean, she literally changed your meal to something you can't eat, not a personal choice.
My issue with gluten arises from eating it. It's not like I'll go into anaphylaxis from being around it. But the symptoms from eating gluten when you have celiac are nothing to scoff at. I agree what she did was really shitty. She's tried to reach out through mutual friends and say she didn't know how bad my reaction to it was. Now the update. 3 days later. Okay, I didn't expect there to be an update on this, but here we go. Recap. My friend Mia changed my order at a restaurant from a burger with a gluten-free bun to a vegan patty that contained gluten without my knowledge. I suffer from celiacs. She wanted to teach me a lesson about veganism. We haven't spoken since. On to the update. So, before I had mentioned that Mia was reaching out to mutual friends to try and get in touch with me. Specifically our friend Heather, she's 28. And while Heather is a very sweet human being, she's a people pleaser and tends to parrot the last person who spoke to her. Heather lives in town while Mia moved to LA. And Heather wants to broker peace as she is very uncomfortable with any sort of conflict. I had Heather over today. She wanted to discuss the Mia situation, and I kept reiterating that I had made up my mind and didn't want to hear it. That if I wanted to talk about Mia and what she did, then I would talk to Mia. So Heather said, "Well, it's not like all her points aren't valid. I mean, look at your chickens. What about my chickens?" Background. My dad and I built my backyard chicken coop with an attached run. They also get supervised yard time. There are 3 hens. Well, Heather went on to say, and I'm assuming she was parroting Mia at this point, that it was inhumane and unethical to keep my chickens, especially when I live in the Midwest, and that stealing their eggs robs them of nutrients. And it's not like I'm a professional when it comes to chickens. I looked at her and said, "Are you a professional cat wrangler?" She looked shocked and said,
What?
"You have cats, but you're not a professional at it. What do you do when they're sick or acting off?"
I take them to the vet.
"But you're not a professional."
Well, no. But they're my pets. I wouldn't let something happen to them.
Exactly. Those chickens are my pets. They live a spoiled life. Heather looked away and said,
Well, Mia said she was going to report you for animal abuse.
I took Heather outside to see the coop, and all 3 of my girls ran up. I showed her around and asked her if this looked like abuse. She said no. I showed her the meals that the chickens are fed. I explained how I ensure the girls get their nutrients and how I put together their meals. I looked at her and said, "What you talk about with Mia is your business. I would hope that you know me and trust me well enough to see that I don't torture my animals. But if you have doubts, I will show you around. I will not be discussing Mia with you any further. I made the choice to go no contact. That doesn't mean you have to take a side or fix things between us." Heather ended up apologizing and saying how Mia sounded so confident in what she was saying that she believed it without a second thought. I ended up feeling so exhausted and still haunted by the ghost of Mia. I don't know how serious she is about reporting me for animal abuse, but there's nothing abusive going on here. I hope she's just spitting venom, hoping that something will get me to unblock her. I can't believe this is the same woman who used to hold my hair in college. And I'm starting to question the level of investment I want with Heather. Let's listen to some comments from the community and answers from the author before I read the update.
Honestly, you need to reduce contact with Heather. Look how ready she was to scold you. How ready to take Mia's side without even bothering to ask you what happened. She's a bad friend.
This isn't the first time. Heather is very sweet but easily persuaded. Respectfully, I love her dearly, but if there was ever a friend that would accidentally join a cult, it would be her. I've tried to bolster her confidence over the years to encourage her to think more for herself, but ultimately you may be right. I may need to step back for my own self-preservation.
If someone starts messing with your chickens, you know who it is. Time to sue. After failing to poison you, she's coming after your safe supply of protein.
She's in LA, so at least she isn't local. I don't want the restaurant to get into trouble if I were to report it. The server was just a young kid, and my fear is they would pass the buck. Update 2. I ordered meat in front of my vegan friend. 14 days later. Recap. I went to visit my vegan friend Mia in LA. She changed my order of a burger with a gluten-free bun to a vegan burger that contained gluten. Celiac. She said I should be more open to trying new things, and it was offensive to eat meat in front of her. I left, cut contact afterwards. My friend Heather had been trying to play mediator, trying to get me to talk to Mia. I said I was done. She told me Mia was threatening to report me for animal abuse because I have backyard chickens. Mia feels that backyard chickens are inhumane and robbing them of eggs robs them of nutrients. I showed Heather around my coop to prove they were well taken care of. She relented that Mia was wrong. On to the update. Alright, I took your advice. I installed cameras around the coop and on the front and back doors. I called the non-emergency line to warn the police about calls from Mia about my chickens. It went about as well as you can expect. Basically, they thought I was crazy, and I honestly felt pretty crazy in the moment. The response was, "Ma'am, I can assure you no one cares if you eat eggs." I went low contact with Heather. First I gave dead-end replies to her messages and eventually went full ghost. Coincidentally, around the time I went full ghost, I started receiving calls from unknown numbers. Answered the first one, and what do you know, it's Mia. Heard her voice and hung up. Blocked that number. More new numbers followed. I got so fed up that I changed my number. I didn't give it to Heather. I still had Heather on socials, so she started DMing me asking if I changed my number cause her calls wouldn't go through. Basically I said something like, "Oh, that's okay, you can just DM me on here. A phone number is just repetitive at this point." She didn't like that answer. I muted the conversation and double-checked that all socials were private. I thought I was in the clear until I got a call from my mother that started with, "Get over here and block this crazy Gitch's number." She's not the most tech-savvy. Turns out Mia had called my mom to tell her what a belligerent, selfish daughter I was being, and that I refused to listen to reason and see the error of my many, many ways. My mother's response, "I don't give a funk what you think," and hung up. The thing is, Mia didn't ever hang out with my parents. She met them in college but didn't make an effort to come to family barbecues. Now Heather did make an effort and was very close with my family. My mom asked why the funk did I give Mia her number. I told her I never gave Mia her number, but I heavily suspected it was Heather. But I didn't have proof. My mom went into her bedroom and called Heather. I don't know what was said, but when my mom came out she said, "Block this Gitch's number too." And the icing on the cake was when my mom looked at me and said, "You're too old for this ish." That hit hard. I just felt like a failure. Damn near 30, and my mom got dragged into my fight that started over a burger. But who calls someone's mom when you don't want to talk to them? We're not 7 years old arguing about who's a duty head on the playground. It's like the more I pull back from Mia, the more she tries to bataram her way back into my life. Like she can't accept something that isn't on her terms. This reaction to rejection seems excessive. So I filled out the papers for a no-contact order against Mia. They said it could be a while before I find out if it gets approved. My boyfriend Zeke came over that night. He walked in and said he brought dinner. Turn around and see him holding gluten-free vegan patties and gluten-free bread. He looked at me and said, "Too soon." I threw the dish towel at him and said, "Yeah, a bit." It's low-key funny but terrible timing. Like if it had happened a month later I would find it hilarious, but less so right now. Love the man, but he failed to read the room. Not sleep on the couch level failed, but go pick up ice cream as an offering failed. So Zeke told me he had secretly never liked Mia. That he tolerated her in group settings. So I asked why. I wanted to know what I had missed. Zeke told a story about when Mia had been stuck in the snow, and Zeke and some of our other guy friends were trying to push her out. She had kitty litter in her car, but it was the foam pellets instead of clay. And Mia refused to believe it wouldn't work. She said, "Kitty litter is kitty litter, it will work." And that whole interaction rubbed Zeke the wrong way. He said he found her grating, but didn't want to say anything to me because she was my friend. Zeke made the burgers, took a bite and said, "I don't know what's worse, the patty or the gluten-free bread." The whole interaction felt a bit forced, so I asked him what was up. He said Heather's fiancé had called him. He said some choice expletives but told Zeke that Heather was placed on a psychiatric hold and it was all my fault, and that we were uninvited from the wedding this summer. I don't know if the psychiatric hold thing is true. I thought the fiancé was a good guy, but this whole saga has taught me that maybe I'm not the best judge of character. I wouldn't be surprised if he said that to hurt me or to trick me into reaching out to Heather. And if it is true, well, I definitely feel partially responsible if that's the case. If I had been more clear with Heather, or maybe even listened to strangers off the internet, and taken steps against Mia sooner, my passiveness escalated the situation. I know I'm not responsible for the actions of others, but I still could have done more. I wrote this out because I was trying to avoid being the star of townie drama by talking to people in the area. But I needed an outlet, so I turned to Reddit. And now I feel like I've written an obituary to 2 of my oldest friends. I'm starting to think the signs of Mia's selfishness and dysfunction were always there, and I just missed it. Like her telling me that people who go to paint and sips lack original thoughts. This was after I went to one. At the time I believed she was pushing for me to embrace my creative side. Laughable. As for Heather, well, people on the internet, you were right. She sides with the more assertive personality in any situation. And I don't know if I ever knew the real her because she became a reflection of those around her. I don't know how much of this is revisionist history, or retconning the past. Like I'm trying to make sense of it all by putting the pieces together. Definitely looking into therapy. Can't wait to deliver the punchline. Because of a burger. I'm nervous about the wedding because Mia will be back in town for it. It's a long way off, but the anxiety is real. I just wanted to add I had never heard the phrase militant vegan before reading the comments on this. Actually, I learned a lot from the comments, so thank you. And I'm not adverse to being friends with vegans in the future, provided they don't funk with my food or my chickens. That is my new baseline for friendship. Really hoping this is the end cause. Funk this-ish. Thank you for listening to this story. Let me know in the comments if you agree with the community. What would you have done in that situation? And for those who stayed to the end, thank you. If you like this type of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you soon.